Don't let mobility issues stop your travel plans. Crowded airports make it difficult for seniors with mobility issues to travel with ease, so you must pre-plan. Airport transportation. Shuttle buses are usually wheelchair accessible, but you should phone in advance to make sure that your type of chair can be put on the bus. Accessible facilities. Restrooms and waiting areas are generally mobility friendly, but because of crowds during peak time, you want to do everything and plan to be there at the airport early so you can get settled at your gate on time and avoid the long trek. Getting around the airport in general is tough because gates, sometimes just checking in and then getting to the gate, it could be a long trek. And if you have to get on a train to get to the gate, it can be a lot. So call in advance, call for a push wheelchair service well in advance of your trip. That way you could take advantage of that as well as priority boarding for those with mobility issues. That way you have extra time to get settled, not only at your gate, but in your seat. So read more from the SeniorsLifestyleMag.com article written by Justin Gagnon titled Tips for Seniors Traveling with Mobility Issues. Thoughtful pre-planning will ensure an enjoyable trip. Click the link below to read that article. At some point, every retiree will face the decision to modify their home or move. According to an AARP study, 77% of adults 50 plus want to age in place and stay in their homes. Well, customized aging helps people think through what they need so they can age in place safely and comfortably in a way that reflects who they are, not how old they are. My guests today, Heather and Eve, assist their clients with home assessments, longevity lifestyle products, and aging in place education for long-term homeowners, their families, real estate agents, and other professionals serving the longevity market. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us. I truly appreciate being here.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So through customized living, you two have combined your passion for real estate and helping seniors modify or move safely in their homes. What are the greatest challenges that you find that you get when someone comes to you for help?
Just that question. Am I going to modify or am I going to move? I mean, it's just that. And that's kind of the phrase that we coined of modifying or moving. I think the misconception becomes is if I move, where do I go? And people are afraid of that what if, especially when you've lived in a home for 40, 50 years. You have to treat it as a first time home seller because they're not sure if they want to sell it. So it's a very interesting area to either modify or move. And it all begins with the homeowner. What's working for them? What's not? Do we modify it or are we going to move and find something that will help them, age safer?
I think a big obstacle is the home itself. We really want them to stay where they want to stay. But you cited that over 77% of older adults want to age in place. However, less than 10% of the housing in our nation is ready for those aging adults because it might have stairs or it might not have grab bars or the proper lighting in the kitchen. It might be cluttered with possessions. So the obstacle is taking it piece by piece and dealing with the feeling that Heather was talking about, well, what are my options? Either I live here or my kids send me to some nursing home. And we're going to talk about the options that are now available and to open people's eyes to the positive opportunities that they have to pursue their current dreams or their new dreams or dreams they set aside for careers. They can now go into some senior living housing that really caters to them.
So is there a certain time that someone should start planning? Should they wait till retirement and plan, or should they start at 60, 56? I don't know.
Well,
Well, that's a good question. It depends on the person. It depends on where they are in life, meaning their abilities. Are they able to walk? Are they able to have cognitive functions? It also then becomes, is it a safe place for them to be? So they have to weigh all that. And I say that a safe place, you have to remember safe isn't just what's around you, meaning the home itself, but you also have to think of how long's the roof been there? Financials, meaning is that really a safe financial decision to stay there because of the upkeep? Possibly taxes going up. You know, depending on your area, you could have, issues with foundation after 50, 60 years. Plumbing is a big thing. And those are big ticket items. When something happens in a home, by the time somebody's in retirement, and that's a big ticket item and they're on a fixed income, that's big.
and if they've lived in that house and they haven't taken care of that house, and if you ask about, Heather's talking a lot about both about the age of the person and the age of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the age of the person could be a 40-year-old, and he says, I want to live here for 20 years, and he has an opportunity to do some renovations. Well, then he should think about renovating for universal design, and that's at a 40-year-old. Who's, maybe thinking about his mother or father or grandparent and people being able to visit his home in the next 20 years as well. And then the next generation, and then the resale of the home. And the understanding that if you start now with doing the universal design upgrades, the home will have a better resale value if you do decide to sell it. So the education about it could start at any age, and doing things about it when you have the opportunity to.
I'm 56 and my guy, he's 62. And I've already told him I don't want to stay here because we have the basement, and then we have 2 levels. It's about 5,000 square feet. At 60 something, I'm not going to want to walk up and down the stairs. So that's like a no. And then trying to clean it once you're 70s or 80s.
That goes back to upkeep. And it's not just, I say the outside, it's both the inside. And so people forget as we age, our homes are aging too. And so that's where we come in with, again, that modifier remove and looking at both sides of it and the options. There are so many options out there for them to, find and to go live in. And that's that passion of the education part where we enjoy bringing all of those options. You would be shocked at there's a mall in upstate New York that's turning into a senior community. They're becoming mixed use for senior living, and that's really turning. I just visited this past weekend Mirabella at ASU. That's at Arizona State University. That was amazing. That facility was, I can't say facility, community was gorgeous. And one of the things that I found that was beautiful about it was that these residents can go take educational courses. So if you've got a person that loves higher learning and enjoys being around students or enjoys being a part of the education system, this would be a perfect place for them to live. They were on campus and they were integrated
with the college students. They're wearing the logos. They can go to the games. They can go to some lectures.
Nice. It really is amazing at the forward thinking of the living communities that are going on, especially with the population growing in the 65 or older sector. And not a lot of attention was being paid back 15, 20 years ago, but just in the last 5 or 10 years, you've got a lot of stuff that's coming up, and it's exciting.
So will you share with the audience some of the communities? I know there's the active 55 plus retirement communities that are, some have homes, some have condos. They're usually for purchase, not for rent. Can you name a few other communities?
Yeah. So the 55 plus communities come at different, within the 55 plus communities were those kinds of options that Heather's talking about. The university campus or the garden living, or people who like, to be around, the standard golf playing. But those can be independent living where there's no added services to take care of you. And then there's the other levels, and Heather, you can talk about the other levels too if you want. Are you ready to go?
Go for it. You go for it.
Well, there's assisted living where you may need some help with your activities of daily living. And then some people, it branches off into different kinds of care. If you have dementia concerns, then there's memory care. If you don't have dementia concerns, but you have a lot of mobility and a lot of activity of daily living and other diseases, you may go into the skilled nursing communities. And there are senior living places that have every single one of those all in one, and they're continuing care communities. And then, but for people that are active adults, there's certain communities we were talking about, the university campus.
You have
expat. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
You've got expat living, which is great. That's living abroad. Then you've got living in multi-generational. That's different forms of multi-generational, which is really great. It's either you living with your children and your grandchildren in the same household, or possibly in an ADU unit, which is a converted garage that's been turned into living, into somewhere that's living habitable. Or you can have something like WheelPad, which is a great ADU unit where they literally take an ADU unit, it's converted, they bring it in, they put it on your property, you rent it until you don't need it anymore, and then they take it off of your property. And it's it's fully accessible by wheelchair. It's great.
What's an ADU unit?
It's an accessory dwelling unit. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So is it like a little mobile home or a little tiny home or something?
It could take several forms. It could take several forms. It's an all-in-one place where it used to be called Granny Flat or something like that, right? Heather,
it's got a different name now. Granny Flat was what it used to be. A studio apartment. It was like a garage that was converted into a little studio. It's the technical term is ADU for it
And
in real estate
on your property.
It's ADU unit is technically a standing, already something that's kind of standing. Mostly it's the garages that are converted into an ADU unit. Now, a WheelPad, which they have accessory. They're like an ADU unit, but they're mobile, and they come on. They put it onto your property, and you rent it out. It's a company out of, I believe it's Vermont. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a private. It's a super accessible. Unit. It's more than, and I mean, the typical ADU is.
It's a mobile. It's a mobile unit. Yeah,
but there's an industry really developing around creating these living spaces that are super accessible. Like the WheelPad already has like a track system on the ceiling. So if you can't transfer from your bed to a chair, or your bed into the shower, there's a hoist and a track that they can take you around. Sort of like a ride at Disneyland, right?
So when a client comes to you, because I know there are some active living or even communities where they assist you that are extremely expensive. There are a few that can be as much as $50,000 down payment or whatever it's called. I'm not sure.
So there's a new movement coming along, and it's going back to Golden Girl style, where you get a group of friends that buy into a home and they end up living together and sharing the costs, and it becomes super affordable in that way.
Okay.
But you have to, it's like kind of it's like a co-op living type situation where everybody's co-living together. Then there's a lot of these new buildings that are going up that are like college dormitories, where it's an apartment. There's five bedrooms, each has its own bathroom. You have a main living room with a big kitchen everybody shares, and everybody has their own room, or 4 of them. So there's a lot, like I said, there's so many new things that are coming out, that are being designed, that are already being built, that are being tested to see what's working and what's not working. I am loving, this industry because it's changing and the technology is changing. So that's also being incorporated into it. When you're looking, when you're looking at senior, like living for a senior, there's pillars that you have to look at, and there's anything from transportation to where your doctors are located, near a hospital. It's got to be easily accessible. You've got to have restaurants. You've got to have care. So there's a lot of factors into it. And it's nice when a community can come in and be a part of that. And I'm noticing those things. You've got Village to Village Network. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but it's people that are staying in their home, and want to stay, but the community's helping them stay in the home. It's just got a lot of great
organization.
Things.
Yeah, it's a membership organization for people that want to age in place, and they can get low cost or volunteer help with tasks around the house and technology. But you did ask a question about affordability, and that's a big hurdle. There's a lot of work being done, but at the same time, I do want to acknowledge that a lot of these wonderful, wonderful senior living communities are very expensive. And that, coming from California, it's kind of mind-bogglingly expensive. However, there are places in other areas of the country that are really affordable and really wonderful communities that care about each other and have programs like, gardening and beautiful vistas and painting and artistry and things like that. So you have to look around and find the community that works. But thank goodness there's a lot of options.
Yes.
When I took care of my dad, we stayed at Leisure World here in Maryland. I'm sure you're familiar about it. I moved from my place when I moved him here and got an apartment there. A condo. I rented from there from an owner because it's all ownership in that area, but they have condos and houses. I rented a condo, but the prices of the houses and condos there are lower than the area. But I do feel that monthly fee, I forgot what they're called.
HOA.
Yeah.
An HOA fee.
The HOA there, I think it's about between $700 and $900 a month.
It's expensive because you're paying for all of the amenities that are around. And so you pay for
our $30 cable bill. Apparently the owner was paying for that.
But you pay for what you get, you know, that's what the saying goes. And so like I said, there are so many things that are evolving in this living space. And there's no perfect there's no perfect whole for a school, like everybody. I just think everybody's got to find what works for them and what their needs are. And that's the part that's really hard because your mind is, fighting with, do I stay or do I go? Do I stay or do I go? And when we come in, we put that to ease and we help them make that decision more defined and say, this is what it's going to take to stay. And this is what it's going to take to go. And here's where we could go and look at all these places.
Plus, you are able to share a lot of other options that person, would not have been aware of. Like Leisure World, I loved it for us, for my dad, but I know that I don't want to stay in a huge city as I get older. I want to be near the ocean. So we're going to definitely retire someplace where he has the golf course and the ocean.
Right. Florida.
Florida.
We're looking at the Carolinas right now. I was like,
sounds really good.
They work. Yeah. But so I love that you said that coming to you will help them basically, I guess you could say, suss out what works for their personality, their budget, and being near the doctors and all these other things that are important. I guess what my question also would be, what is the most significant change that you see that's coming, or do you think will hit right away for those who are in need right now? Like my show is Senior Women, someone who may need to come to you right now.
Typically, the people that come to us right now are people that take the fall, or it happens right now. That's when you need, people don't prep for the what ifs. We just don't. We don't think about that. And I think what part of going back to that universal design and what Eve was saying at the beginning was, if people started prepping for universal design now, it would just be there and we wouldn't have to think about it. But the misconception, going back to what we said at the beginning, there's a misconception of what does it look like? Because people in their mind think it's like a sterile environment. It looks like a hospital grade. It's cold to the touch. You would be surprised. If you think about walking into a spa at, one of the fancy hotels, they're ADA compliant. If a spa can do it, why can't you do it in your home? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I say. And it's not just the bathroom, it's the kitchen. I redid my kitchen in Universal Design, and it's little things. It's very little things that you would do to make it look beautiful. It doesn't have to look cold, to put in certain little things in a kitchen, special type of pull-out cabinets. The way things are, the lighting, the countertops. If you put in certain color countertops that look a little higher than they do if they're, because you got to get a little lower.
Let's just assume that I'm 62. I make the changes to my home so I can age in place, but then my health takes a turn and my kids put me in a nursing home. How does that affect the resale value? Because now we need to sell my house to pay for my nursing care.
And there are a lot of home modifications in Universal Designs that increase the resale value of the home a lot. It's the 0-step shower, it's the lever faucets and the door handles, it's the shower seats, it's the lighting. Go ahead. Yeah.
So you gotta go. Let's go back to that spa. Now that we've gone in and we have done everything that was needed in your bathroom, let's say it was that walk-in shower, and it looks like a spa feature. Someone's going to come in and look at that and not realize that those towel bars that you put in there were actually grab bars. Oh. Kohler, Ponte Giulio, you've got so many companies that are out there making these things. You've got medicine cabinets that actually have a grab bar that's built into it. You can grab onto that. Toilet paper holders. You've got so many things that you didn't realize that if you just grabbed onto it, it's actually a grab bar. It's behind it and the blocking that's the problem when you're modifying, when you're doing these modifications, when you're building.
Blocking. Yeah.
So these companies are all getting into wow.
Yes.
I know. Because I actually have a bar because our tub is really low and I love to take a bath. So I have one of those bars on the edge of the tub just so I can get out, but it's not cute. So I keep it covered.
It's not cute.
No. So I've got a great one for you. So there is both on our website, because we do sell products and we are with one of the Ponte Giulio distributors, sorry, excuse me. Lowe's Livable Home. I know people don't know this yet, but Lowe's actually has an area in their store that is all just feature, anything that you need for aging in place. So they do have the toilet seats, and so they're getting behind it too. So you'd be surprised at the big name corporations that are getting behind this. Your tech companies,
Best Buy
go ahead. Yeah, Best Buy Health. Best Buy Health is a huge player in the senior tech field. So you'd be surprised that they've been working at this a long time and they saw the need for it in the future.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to
we
watch.
Can talk much about. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we can talk about this all day. How would a potential client reach you because they need this information now?
Thank you. Well, first, our email address is customizedaging@gmail.com. You can certainly reach us through email, and you can certainly reach us at any of our social media at Customized Aging.
And on that, yes, and on that social media, we educate. You can watch videos about all of this stuff that we're talking about. Do they want to know about senior 55 communities across the U.S.? I give them the top 10 communities. Do they want to know about Mirabella? They're going to find out about Mirabella. So I do go into these places and even I do educate about all of this stuff and the questions to ask and what to look for. And we bring in experts to talk about it. So it's nice.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me and giving all this information.
We're happy to share the resources. Thank you very much for having us.
And thank you so much. It was great meeting you.
You as well. Thank you.